Hello, hello, hello. Mr. the Vestman here, and bringing you some Trenched for the old XBLA fans. And what we've got here is survival, and a couple things I will apologize. There is going to be some lag. Unfortunately, you're going to notice a stuttering frame rate, and you're going to be like, no, this is a terribly, terribly rendered video. That's not the case, unfortunately. This is how laggy it was for us. Apparently, me and we have a guest. Papa Bear is one of my subscribers on my personal channel. But we don't connect too very well. So, if you're noticing any issues, suffice it to say, we had to put up with that. But what we got here is survival mode, and if you haven't played Trenched in a while, for one, it's called Iron Brigade now. For two, there's title update. And it gives you the survival mode. So you might recognize the map. It's the hospital map. I believe it's the first map of the second area. And what it is escalating form of enemies and wave after wave. Same as any typical survival. The obvious differences here is that you're entrenched, and what you've got really to plan out for. What really becomes an issue here, unlike a lot of tower defense games, the later waves, to a certain extent, get easier because as the later waves show up, you have more money, better turrets, easier kills, and so some survival tower defense stuff in that regard is easy. What this one does is a little different. So because you have multiple people, the first thing you need to know is that the game scales up the enemy health. I'm not sure about damage, but the enemy health, the resistances, they get scaled up as more people are added. So if you're playing by yourself, you're going to notice that the enemies will die with relative ease. If you're playing with 4 people, they are going to take a bit more of a beating. Obviously, this is going to be worse later because of the second thing. The enemies gain progressive and escalating amounts of health and resistances and yada 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 as the waves continue on. So not only do you have the enemies getting more health because of the amount of people, but the further you get, the harder they get. And this makes perfect sense. Trench doesn't have that many enemies. I think there's maybe 10, kind of ballparking that. So, it's not like some tower defense games where there's 50 enemies for the game to choose from. So what they do instead is obviously they escalate the enemies that they have. So by the end, you'll see just normal resistors taking 3 or 4 shotgun shots just to drop those guys, which, normally would drop in one shot, 1 to 2. So that's the first 2 things you should really keep in mind. So one, the amount of people factors into their health, and the further you get, it's going to factor into their health. But what ends up being a necessary case, and the third thing you should really keep in mind, is that you're going to want 4 people. This survival mode is geared, built, designed for 4 people, however you want to say that. I've tried by myself. Todd has tried by himself. Me and Todd have tried together with 2 people. You can see we have 3 people here. And none of us have gotten past wave 50, which wave 50 is kind of like the de facto win level. After wave 50, you're just pretty well showing off at that point, because after wave 50, you don't get anything anymore. From the best of our knowledge, and I think this is 100% true, I could be wrong, and I'm sure I'll be corrected in the comments down below if I am, but I believe after wave 50, you do not get any more loot. You get loot at every 5th wave, starting at 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way up to 50. I believe 50 is the last one. So, as you get to 50, though, or get closer to 50, it doesn't become easy. But first thing I'm going to point out, so aside from the health, you're going to want 4 people. Like I said, this is designed for 4 people. You're going to need 4 people. This will give you the obvious impression that, hey, if there's 4 people and if the enemy's going to be harder. Yes, but you're going to need that 4th person later on in the game. Because eventually it'll get to the point that even with 3 people, even with 2 people, they're going to have so much health, just an overwhelming amount of health, that you are going to want that 4th person's guns. And the reason for this is no matter how many turrets you have, they can't make up for the power of a trench. The robot is called a trench, just in case you didn't realize this. The trenches are very powerful. It's very hard. Multiple turrets are needed to make up for the raw power of one assault trench. And, okay, real quick, what we did here is, since this took over an hour, I cut into 3 sections. You saw the first 5 minutes. This is the middle. You're going to see about 5 minutes of the middle and about 5 minutes of the end. So that's what that cut was. But yeah, so the trenches are very, very powerful. So you're actually going to want that 4th person more than you're going to want to avoid health increases. So that's the first real big piece of advice. Get some friends. 4 people, absolute must. The second piece of advice is your layout or your build or your strategy. And what I would suggest here is, for one, the 4 people you have, 1 should be an engineer mech, 3 should be assault mechs. The engineer mech should have a wide variety of emplacements. I would highly suggest, though, he has the flak, the machine gun, the mines, and the sniper. Because, the reason I say this is because the sniper is very important later on. The mines are fairly useful, although that's up to you personally. It's not the best thing in the world because there's going to be a lot of Jacobs later. And a lot of Jacobs, I don't mean a couple, I mean a lot. Like 10 Jacobs to a boss, the amount of Jacobs. So the mines are hit or miss. But the sniper is very useful. The flak is very useful. But the thing is, you don't need very many of them. So if you don't necessarily want to put the flak on the engineer guy, I can understand that. And the machine guns. The machine guns are super, super useful later on because, as you just saw, waves of kobolds become an almost guarantee per wave. You'll almost always have a kobolds or 2 on each wave. So I would suggest you have 1 engineer mech to get to the 9s with the stuff that you're going to lay down the most. That's why I suggest the sniper, that's why I suggest the mines, because those are likely to be some of the most laid down stuff. The 3 assault mechs, it doesn't really matter too much what their emplacements are, although you want to make sure the assault mechs cover the other categories. You're going to need dampening generators. Those are an absolute must, so someone has to have them. You're going to want a repair crane, just because in the heat of battle, you can't constantly be reviving people. It's going to be up to other people to keep their health tip-top. You're also going to want, maybe, this isn't a necessity, but you might want to bring a collection prod, and you might want to bring a mortar turret. You know, those are other things you maybe don't necessarily need. In my opinion, the necessities are dampening, machine gun, sniper, and the repair crane. Those are the 4 that I'd really say you absolutely, positively must have. The reasons for this is the dampening generator and the machine guns are going to be needed for the kobolds. The dampening generators especially are going to be needed for the bosses, because after about wave 30, the bosses get so much health that no matter what you do, they're going to get awfully close to your base. So you really want to slow them down as much as you can. Interesting fact about the dampening generator as well is they stack. So typically, when you slow an enemy down in most games, you can't slow him down even more with the same device. In this game, you can. 2 dampening generators side by side will give a double effect slow. 3 would probably give a triple effect. So that's the important note there. But yeah, those are the 4 I would definitely suggest. And the reason the sniper is so important, it's very rare that you use the sniper in the campaign, but what happens in this is because there are so many bosses and so many high health targets, the sniper is one of the few turrets that can significantly damage, if not one-shot, the enemies later on. You'll see when we get the next cut here in about a minute and a half that we have at any given time around 6 fully upgraded sniper turrets, and that wasn't enough. Preferably, you're going to want a lot more, and I'll get into that in a little bit after I'm done with the beginning layout. So those are the emplacements you should have. Your trenches, like I said, should be 1 engineer and 3 assaults. And the guns, the trenches should have. On the engineer, it doesn't really matter too much. I'm using the automatic shotguns that you unlock by playing survival mode. The engineer mech can kind of use whatever he wants, although I suggest shotguns just because you're going to be running around so much. The shotgun gives you that extra little kick, so at least you can kill something while you're running around. The assault mechs, I would suggest each one specializes in something different. You're going to want one who's using explosives. Not just because the explosives are really long range, but also because you're going to need something to crack open the breakers, I believe. The guys with the armored shells. You're going to want the breakers. Here's the final cut, by the way, if you did not see that very obvious cut right there. What wave are we at this point? Next wave in 7, 6, 5, 4. You can see we're repairing here. We're taking a beating at this point. You can see we're creeping along on almost no health because we're having such a hard time killing guys. And you'll see it's pretty ridiculous. Okay, here's wave 40. Wow, that works out very well. But yeah, so the assault mechs, one should have explosives. One should have some form of sniper. It doesn't have to be all snipers. What you can do is there is at wave 15, I believe. You'll see at the end of the video, anyways. You'll unlock the hyper sniper. It's a fully automatic sniper. Those are actually really good. So if you want to bring the hyper snipers, some form. The point of the story here is some form of long range heavy damage. So sniper is preferable. And your third assault mech should focus on mass amounts of bullets. So that is shotguns and machine guns. Can do all machine guns, can do all shotguns. I would suggest a nice mix. Maybe 3 machine guns on one side, 3 shotties on the other. You could do all machine guns if you want, but you don't necessarily need all shredders. Aerial units become almost a non-issue because you'll have so many snipers, you'll have so many machine guns kicking around, the aerial units just get destroyed. So you might want to use ricochet machine guns or something else. That's really up to you. But anyways, that is your beginning. It took forever. That is what I suggest you start out with those. So that's the emplacements I suggest. That's the mech trench layout I suggest. And the only other really big thing that I can really help you out with here is what we learned from our failure here. So what we learned is, one, we were not putting out enough damage. We needed a 4th person. We just could not make up for the damage. 2, you're going to have to learn how to very, very specifically lay down dampening turrets and machine guns. Because what's going to happen is kobolds are going to have Jacobs on them. So it's going to become very crucial that not only do you manage Jacobs, but you have to manage the kobolds. Because what's going to happen is if you get to wave 40 and you have 20 snipers all fully upgraded, if even one wave of kobolds gets through, that's going to take down 2 or 3 snipers, and you cannot afford that. Sniper rifles are going to save your life in this. You have to protect them. So dampening generators need to be everywhere. They need to be stacking on themselves, and you need the machine guns to back them up. The snipers, extremely powerful, but if you don't have a lot of them, or just in general, they can't handle everything. So you're going to need some machine guns to mop up the kobolds specifically. Plus, machine guns help, spray aerials. They help, pepper enemies that may have got through. So snipers need to be protected. Dampening generators need to be everywhere. Machine gun turrets, I would suggest bringing the shred machine gun that you unlock through survival, just because the shred effect gives you extra money. So extra money is always a plus. And yeah, that's really about it. It's really going to come down to your placement. Keep in mind that bosses, if they walk over a turret, will instantly kill it. So make sure as you're building, you keep stuff out of their pathways. Obviously, that's eventually going to get hard to deal with, but it's really just something that's going to be... you can see I have a lot of mines here, but the mines almost become useless. This already is going to be the guy that kills us. You can see us panicking. We're like... We know we don't have enough health, and we're all trying to kill him, and this is how much health they have at this point. You see, he walked through minefields, he's getting shot by cannons, snipers, and he's not dying. You see the first already shot, and I kind of blew my mind he wasn't dead. But anyways, I'm off topic. So we got to wave 41, and that's as far as we got. And I'm going to just briefly explain here what you get as a reward. And that's really about it. There's really no way to efficiently guide this because it's kind of random. Each wave is going to have the same amount of enemies, but it's random as to how they come out, so there's no specific way for me to tell you where to put stuff. It's just, once again, dampening generators, machine guns, and snipers everywhere. But this stuff you unlock through random crates. The stuff you unlock through actual survival will have a number. So you'll see a 5 for the first one, 10, 15, 20. There we go. So that's a ricochet machine gun. You get an automatic shotgun. You get the shred machine gun. You can pause, at any point and just look at them specifically. But then at 40, you see you get the Laszlo device, which is pretty cool looking. You also get a mortar turret at wave, I believe it was 30 or 35. But I hope this kind of helped you. Like I said, it's hard to prepare you for this. It's really something that you're going to have to try again. And unfortunately, it does take you a long time for each try, but it's a fun try. So I wish you the best of luck. Let us know how you do. And we will see everyone next time here at XBLA Fans.